Hello, everyone. My name is Rajan Samuel, and I work for Crowdera Managing Director. And welcome to this session. The session is titled Framework for Online Fundraising. So I'll be looking at what are the key components, ingredients that you need to look at to create a framework for your organization for online fundraising. And number two is that how do I prepare my organization in order to launch a campaign, in order to start a campaign, in order to ensure that we are able to achieve the goals, objectives, what is set for the campaign. Let me move. So, what is a framework? Framework is like a blueprint. So, it provides what are the critical component one has to look at in order to ensure that you're able to succeed in your endeavor. So the first and foremost thing that we need to when I talk about fundraising. So when I talk about online fundraising, there's an ecosystem. You also have what we call as offline fundraising. That is, you are preparing a proposal and you're reaching out to donors, or you're organizing events, or you're asking people to donate gift in kind. So there are different ways of raising, and you can categorize that into two buckets. One is online fundraising or digital fundraising. One is offline fundraising. There are different components. Now, for this session, we'll be looking at online fundraising. So, what is the objective? Why do we want to, embark on online fundraising? Why do you want to embark on digital fundraising? So, the objective has to be clearly articulated, in order to ensure that you have all the pieces in place before you go live and before you can raise the money and start implementing the program. So the objective needs to be clearly articulated. It could be to supplement your existing offline fundraising, or it could be a dedicated campaign that you want to run in order to raise money. It could be, looking at a specific issue. It could be education, for example. It could be skilling. It could be, wash water. Health and hygiene. It could be livelihood programs. So there are different interventions. And as part of the objectives, it's important for you to articulate in terms of why do I want to, raise money online, and what is the objective that should be articulated, and there has to be a buy-in from every stakeholder that's involved. And the second one is what is important in online fundraising is to set a goal, because campaigns are time bound, number one. So therefore you need to set a goal, a financial goal, in order to ensure that you align your activities, you align strategies, you align your institution, align your donors, promoters, fundraisers, and you align your meal framework. And it's very important, while you define your objective, while articulating the objective, it's equally important for you to set a goal. We talk about financial goal. So we want to raise, let's say, 25,000, rupees in order to promote, education for tribal girl children, right? So you have a narrative, you have a message, you have a goal, and you're saying as part of the goal you want to raise 25,000 rupees, and you're saying that you're going to run the campaign from January 2025, or to March 2025. You can put a date as well. Number two, so objective is clearly articulated, it's set, and like I said, this objective has to be in with the overall fundraising strategy for the organization. But here we are really looking at online fundraising, and like I said earlier, you have a fundraising ecosystem offline. It could be reaching out to donors as part of CSR mandate. It could be reaching out to family foundations. It could be reaching out, high net worth individuals. It could be organizing fundraising dinner. It could be organizing tour in order to raise money. Well articulated communication strategy. Communication is important because you need to know what to communicate, right? Whom and when. So communication strategy is important. Marketing strategy is another important piece. So you have the campaign management, your communication strategy or communication management, then you have the market strategy, or marketing management. Marketing is, once you're clear your campaign, your target group, once you have your communication package, how we are going to communicate, who the target group, then how are we going to market it? So marketing is important. You're going to use it. Yeah, you're going to do a weekly message, or it's going to be daily message. You're going to capture the stories, the impact stories, what you were able to create in terms of impact that you're able to create in the lives of the people that you're serving. So marketing is a very important piece. And finally, of course, impact management. Storytelling is important, and this comes out of your program management. So you have done a lot of work. Let's talk about education, since I mentioned this earlier. So you have educated people, and some of them are today doing well. We'll look at a case study later. You can capture those impact stories, and then feed into your communication strategy, into a marketing strategy. So I think objective strategy. Then you talk about institutional assessment. So we need to understand who we are, because we are not operating in isolation. We're talking about online fundraising. It is a small piece of the big puzzle. So it's important for you to understand your organization, the need in order to move in this direction. Because fundraising, whether it is an event, you're going to call, or you're going to put a proposal where you're writing a proposal, and the criteria from the donor, and you're going to meet with the donor, have a face-to-face meeting. So there are a lot of things that you are aware of, but in the case of online fundraising, you will have to assume a lot of things. You will have to understand the market, and that's where the preparation is very, very, very important. So I'll talk about institutional assessment later, give an example. Stakeholder mapping is important, right? And who are your donor, who are the donors that you're going to target. This is a framework. It's like a roadmap. It's like a blueprint. You need to articulate everything in writing, so that write objectives, the goal, and then try to unpack the strategies. The strategies could be part of your campaign management, it could be part of your communication management or strategy, it could be part of your marketing strategy. Find impact management or impact assessment is you capture the change that you are able to make through your intervention, right? Before, it could be education, it could be livelihoods, it could be skilling stories, impact stories that you're able to doc. And so we also suggest that you do an insurance assessment, because you are not doing online fundraising in isolation. It is part of an ecosystem. You do offline fundraising. You may be reaching out to a donor with a proposal. It could be an event that you're organizing. It could be a dinner. It could be a golf tournament that you're doing. Uh, Ways of raising money. So there is online and offline. So we are talking today. We're talking about online fundraising for you to understand your organization. So we talk about institutional assessment. It's like a mirror of your organization, right? This you need to understand your stakeholders. You need to map your stakeholders. It could be donors, could be promoters, it could be ambassadors, it could be initiators, it could be fundraisers, it could be celebrities. So it's important for you to map out. You write down this, which is part of your the campaign. And the last one is you need to have a meal. Meal stands for monitoring, evaluation, accountability, and learning, right? Any activity we undertake in life has to be monitored, or a digital fundraising manager. Accountability is very important, because you're engaging the organization, and you're also engaging others, stakeholders who are not part of your organization. Donors could be volunteers, could be promoters. So it's important for you to have an accountability matrix. And last thing I said is about learning. Any activity in life, we learn. As someone said, learning is it's long exercise, right? Sometimes we need to learn to learn, and we need to relearn to learn. Yeah. How do we set those objectives? What I call as a learning objectives in organization, and and sometimes I was giving an example. Sometimes we overestimate, and then you're not able to achieve. It impacts campaign, it impacts the morale of the staff, it demotivates everyone, right? So every piece that that I've shared with you is important. Okay. If you have questions, use the chat box, and then you will try and revisit that later. So, why is it institutional assessment important? I said it's like a mirror. It's like a mirror of organization, and there are seven pieces, that we look at when you're looking at institutional assessment. These are the common fact, when you're talking about, when you talk about institutional assessment, like a review. It's not an audit. I would say that it could be a self-assessment exercise as well. People always say that, can I pick one and work on it? We don't want to look at all the seven activities. I pick one and work on it. Or people tell us that if I have money, I can fix everything, right? You get to hear that, right? I mean, sometimes people say that I don't have the right people in the organization. Yeah, I mean, I think, the pain point, right? I mean, funding is a pain point for most of the social sector, the NGO sector, and getting the right people for the right job. It's not always easy, So we'll have to live with whatever sources that we have. How do we prepare them? How do we empower them? With the right skill set. And sometimes people say we're too small. Yeah, it's too small. I don't think we should. So I think these are some of the back when I talk to people, and so right from governance, where you set your policies, your directions, your oversight, checks and balance policies, comes from the board of directors, right? The trustees, depending on the registration of your organization. Operation talks about effective program delivery. Very, like I said, we're raising 25,000, to, equip or empower 10 girls, from a tribal in Maharashtra. So, you need to have an effective delivery system to track, how they perform, how the intervention has helped them, holistic, mentally, physically, and in terms of their performance, etc., etc. Uh, those development is very, very important, right? I think we talk about it. Online fundraising is part of this ecosystem. How do we ensure sustain funding for you to grow? We talk about scale, we talk about growth of the organization. You can grow vertically, you can also grow horizontally. Compliance is important, yeah, whether it is to regulatory authorities, or to your donors or to your stakeholders. We talk about risk management and accountability, efficient performance, your management systems and processes, empowering productivity. We talk about people, systems, and processes, and the last, information management and technology. Yeah. So these are the seven areas we look at, and each area has got five, elements. There are 35 areas that we look at. This basically helps you to understand who you are as an organization, and there are different tools, and I understand there are about 43 different types of tools that we have, in the sector that we can use. So this is a very simple tool that designed. It is basically, it doesn't ask you how old are you, how old is the organization. It doesn't. So it assumes that at any point of time you can pause and then do a institutional assessment to understand where you are as an organization, so that you know your journey so far, and you need to know your journey beyond the point, what you have, what you need, how are we going to get there, resources we need, and what is that that will help you, have that kind of a structured journey to a goal objective that you set for yourself. This is one piece. Meal framework, so this is a course that we run, through Crowd Foundation. But I'll just, give you a snapshot, if you will, just to understand what is meal. So many of you are, I assume that are from the NGO sector. So you should have a meal framework for your programs. So it used to be called PD meal, program design and evaluation, and so there are different terminologies that's been used, and so I prefer to use meal framework. So monitoring, you have to monitor a lot of things. I just put few things. There are more things that you need to monitor. The key indicators, you have matrix, you have outputs and outcomes, right? Outputs means, could be quantifiable, right? These are quantifiable, quantitative indicators of campaigns launched, right? So that is output. What is the outcome? How did I perform in terms of the campaign? I launched two campaigns, one for education, one for skilling of young people, so that they're able to get a job or able to join as interns in corporates. So two campaigns, output is two campaigns. A lot of other pieces that goes with output, like whether it is a time campaign, what was the target that you set for yourself, etc. So that is output. Outcome is, what is the campaign success rate? Did you get 10,000 rupees? Like I said, 25,000 rupees was a campaign. It was a campaign. How much you were able to raise? How many donors? Average donation per donor. I think you can do a deep dive to understand different indicators. We call it indicators, and so it's basically for you to understand meal framework. So evaluation is impact metric, cost effectiveness. So how much are you spent in order to raise 1 rupee, right? So your cost. We normally talk about ROI, and ROI is important for fundraising. And in one of it was a campaign that they launched during 2018 and 19 during for other financial years. The ROI was 233% and 33%. So you need to know what is the ROI for your campaign, effectiveness, then the accountability, compliance with reporting deadlines, stakeholder feedback, policies, and then having that anchor, fundraising manager, digital fundraising manager, connect with all the dots, working with the marketing team, with the communication team, working with the fundraising team, talking to your CFO, getting your board engaged, get your trustees as ambassadors, very important. That's part of accountability. Like I said, you need to have an accountability matrix, ensure transparency and responsible resource use, learning. I think, what are the best practices, documentation, what are the benchmarks for effective fundraising is you should have conversion rate of 21%. What is conversion rate? That means visit your website, 21 people inevitably become your donors. They may, donate once, we become one donor. Then when you talk about donor management, you're trying to say, how do I convert this one time? Anu is a one time donor. She donated once for this education campaign. Now I give support back to them, and I say that these 5 girls that we have been able to empower through your support, now they are doing well. Now they're preparing for their NEET exams, and they've got 6 in their plus 2. Whatever, you're giving feedback to Anu, so that Anu says, I see this group, they're not asking for money, they're also giving me feedback. Donor management, we talk about donor cultivation, they're giving reports, what we have done with our money. And I'm happy. The colleague was talking to earlier, she's happy, and she said, I want to become a monthly donor. So you're converting Anu from time donor to monthly donor, because you have a clear learning, a strategy. How we are going to capture the best practices, how we are going to capture your stories. And the last one is overall impact assessment, total funds raised, how are we going to get these stories, capture this. Finally, how are you going to create a digital in the organization of why meal framework. The meal framework is important for anything that you do in life, and through your organization. And I have a lot of examples. I don't think I will repeat it. Monitoring is that if you want to measure something that you have planned in the campaign, you need to monitor. And I was giving an example of the difference between output, outcome, and impact indicator. You talk about matrix, impact metrics. What is an output? Out is, it is a quantitative indicator. Like you lost 2 campaigns, one for education, one for skilling. That is output. What is the outcome? Outcome is, what was the target for your education campaign? What was the target for skill? And let's say 25,000 you targeted, and you achieved only, let's say, 10,000, right? So that is the outcome of your campaign, which you need to track. And then comes your metrics, like impact metrics, like cost effectiveness. For a rupee, how much are you spending? Initially, you have to spend more rupees, 3 rupees. That's okay. then you need to know when you're going to break even, because you're not doing online fundraising as a silo, as a standalone activity. It needs to be embedded. It needs to be linked, aligned with the overall ecosystem, fundraising ecosystem. So if you want to measure, you need to monitor, right? Yeah, it's like measuring your blood pressure, right? And you need to know what is the normal blood pressure, 120 70 or 140 70, depending on your age. So you need to monitor and measure. You need to know what to measure, and if you know what to measure, you will know what to monitor. I always say that that's important. Evaluation is, you need to evaluate any activity that we do, cost effectiveness, and I was giving an example why accountability is important. All the stakeholders, back policies, learning is important, and I spoke about learning to gender. And the last one is impact, overall impact assessment. And we are talking about, meal framework is not only fine to online fundraising, but it's across the board. If you want to do, implementing an education program and targeting, let's say, urban slums, so you need to have a meal framework. This is important. Do they fall sick? What is their academic performance, and taking or they go for classes in the evening, and what at home. How are the parents supporting their education? You have a holistic picture in order to gauge the impact of intervention. In order to understand the ROI of an intervention. So meal framework helps you to do that. So if you have questions, feel free to park them in the box. Now I'm moving to the next slide, and please let me know you're able. Anu can help me out this
Yes,
one.
sir.
Yeah,
Yes,
you're
sir.
able to see.
Yes, sir. We
Okay.
can see the next slide.
Yes, sir. Yes.
This is voice on the field. This is Vidya Poshak, is one of our partners, and they are sold out on education, and so Pavitra Patel is one of students who was benefited to this Vidya Poshak's and so this is a case study that we have written. So what is the background? The mother is a homemaker. Mother is a small farmer, and after completing +2, Vidya Poshak helped her to complete her graduation, and from a village Dharwad. Today, um, Pavitra Patel is in Bangalore, and she works for a IT company. And I'll take a quote from her. I'm thankful that I could continue my education support of from Vidya Poshak. Right, she works for Infosys, and for this, for her to move from a small time village to a cosmopolitan city is a big change. And um, Vidya Poshak incidentally used Crowdera's platform to raise money, and they support kids from low-income families, and they provide scholarship. And some of them have become doctors and engineers, like Pavitra. She's become an executive in Infosys. Now she's going to give back to the community, and she's going to give back to Vidya Poshak. I think that's what we have seen with them. That those who get the support, who are impacted the organization, and there's a saying, what you sow is what you reap, right? So you go back and support. There's a study done by CAF and Center for, and they do this annual study, and then they come out with a global giving index, and India is below 4. Indonesia is number one, and we think that Indonesia cannot be a giving country. They give they give their talents for others. So India stands one. They rank number one as in the giving in. So we need to think about giving back. I learned from Vidya Poshak, some of the doctors and engineers. All of we've been blessed, right? And we need to give back to the community, right? The Indians, I think it's our responsibility to give back. The need is, so. Um, uh, Important for us to understand the context of giving. Uh, Indians give back to religious institutions, right? And so now things have changed. Another study that I read, Hong Kong, 94% of Hong Kongers give back to charities. You can find people outside the metro station in Hong Kong. They'll come and ask, "Do you want to sign up, for this particular charity?" They give online. Imagine India, 600 million plus Indians transact online. Digital platform. And it was different before COVID. And it's billions of rupees. We trans. Imagine even if we can convert 50%, 300 million, who could give back to the community. All of us are. So when you make a payment, I mean, I go and buy vegetables, I go to the restaurant, I order for coffee, and so I get back, right? So you're able to make a payment. So in online fundraising, you need to think about it, right? If you want to support people like Pavitra, and you have an option. I know your option. I mean, you get, I mean, look at the way Google does it, Google Pay. Look at the way Paytm. I use Paytm. As soon as I make payment, I get something. Some, scratch card, whatever, right? Imagine if we convert out of 600 people who are transacting something back. So what is that they're going to get back when they donate to the organization? They're going to get back the ROI is like 200 plus, 300%. That when people donate online, they want something, right? They want to look at a story. They want to look at the impact. They see what was the situation before and what is the situation now, and they understand the impact, the change, if you will, that you're able to create. So I think let's keep that in mind. I think I know people all are also from outside India. Uh, it's catching everywhere. Digital payment is catching up everywhere around the world, and it's a right time for us to talk about giving back to the community, giving back to cause, giving back to organizations with in education, who are investing in people like Pavitra. Moving to the next slide. Uh, this kind of encompasses everything that I said, and so we still have time for Q&A. So, are there any questions in the chat box, Najma, that you can see? So we can maybe before I do the 7 pillars, maybe let's get some feedback from the participants.
Yes, sir, they can chat or they can
Okay,
raise their hands. So I will let you know.
okay.
Okay.
Are there any questions, comments?
Sir, you can also see there is a two live chat, general chat and panel chat. So is there any questions? So you can also read and you can give answer.
Okay, okay.
So for
Yeah, I
example,
think before. Yeah,
yeah,
Nazma, if you allow me, can I read the questions for sir?
please. You yeah. Stage is
Yeah.
yours. Please do.
Yeah. So, sir, Mr. Dhritan Das, he's asking what are the most effective methods for calculating the ROI of a proposed initiative, and how can this data be leveraged to design a compelling online fundraising campaigns? Furthermore,
okay,
to what extent does highlighting ROI influence donor perception?
sure. Yeah, it's a good question. So we can have two scenarios here. One is you're already, you have a digital presence and you're raising money. So it's important for you to calculate the that goes into creating that campaign, in terms of campaign management. So let's look at scenario one, where you already have a presence and you are calculating, you want to calculate the ROI. So let's say you've raised 100,000, 1 lakh rupees, and let's assume that 20,000 is your expenses. So you need to. So the important thing is calculate those expenses is very important. So because, like I said, online fundraising may not be a standalone activity for the organization. So you need to find a way to do the cost apportionment. you need to split the cost. Like, let's say you have a digital fundraising manager. He or she is giving 10% of the time for digital fundraising, and 90% for writing proposals, organizing events, talking to high net worth individuals, breakfast with HNIs. She's involved in different activities. Let's say that 10% of salary, we say that number of man-days. So let's say that paying 20,000, and 10% is 2,000. So 2,000 is the amount that you need to take out in order to calculate the ROI for this particular campaign. So before you calculate the ROI, I would suggest that you do the following. Number one, do a cost allocation to the your campaign. Number one. Number two is that your campaign could be a perpetual campaign. It could a time bound campaign. If it's a time bound campaign, let's say it's a 2 months campaign, you apportion your cost to the 2 months campaign, right? You're not spreading it over 3 months. You're not spreading it over 6 months. So that's second. The third one is a certain percentage of the overhead cost of the organization, apart from salaries and utilities, rent, stationery you're using a social media campaign, you're hiring a designer, or you already have a designer and you're using 5% of the designer's time. So get those things computed and calculate your total cost on the amount based, or it will be on the goal amount, right? And you can say that my projected ROI is so much, and after you run the campaign, actual ROI is so much. I think that's for those who are already have a online presence. That means you are active online. You have a donation page, in your website. The second scenario is that where you don't have digital presence and you're trying to create a digital identity for your organization. And it's important that so for that, it's important for you to understand what are the things that you put in your website. And it's something that we do as part of campaign management. And so then you can also do a projected ROI. And so normally I would say the best practice would be that you run a time bound campaign, and then you learn from there. Time bound campaign could be for 3 months or 2 months, and this is the right time, because of income tax planning, and ATG, etc. People normally reach out to donors to contribute, and many organizations are already out there. And according to ROC, there are 1,007 plus crores which are unspent by CSR, companies. They're part of the CSR mandate, and so a lot of people are reaching out to donors. Your unspent money, give it to us, and we can multiply it 10 times, 20 times. This is the ROI. I've seen many such appeal already in LinkedIn. Right? So you're scanning the environment. So the market, understand the preference of your donors, and you know. So ROI is not only the indicator that most donors would like to look at. Individual donors, in my opinion, they all look for stories, impact stories, like Pavitra stories. Imagine, she couldn't continue her degree, and someone helped her. They raised money online, and people like you have given to Vidya Poshak, and today she has a good job. She moved from Dharwad, from a remote village in Dharwad. And I think stories like that, online fundraising, another thing I've learned again, is a best practice. It's an emotional connect. What do people give for medical emergencies? And keto, look at keto. Every day I receive appeals, right? And wherever you go on on any website, you find appeal, right? The mother is appeal, for a heart surgery. People give when there is an emotional connect. Number one, and number two is that a disaster. Always, it kind of what's happening in the US. People are raising money, rating for hurricane, etc., etc., because it's there out in the marketplace. It's out. They can see in the media. They can see in social media. They can see it on the news. So the question that I would say is that while return on investment, ROI, is important, look at the ROI from a social angle. social return on investment, which which cannot be quantified in terms of money, in terms of value, but these are impact stories. For example, I've done a lot of work on housing, for example, and I used to say that to the donors that we don't build houses, but we build hopes. A house is built with brick and mortar. It has got walls and pillars, whereas a home is an aspiration of people who live in that house. So there's a big difference between a house and a home, right? So I would say that focus on social ROI, social return on investment. Capture those stories, the powerful stories that you see in the field. And then package. Work with your social media team, work with your marketing, and then so emotional connect is very important. If you're offline fundraising is very different because they're able to see people, and you bring your your beneficiaries sometimes for mailers, for events, and ask them to share their experiences. So it's important for you to document those impact stories, so have that emotional connect. And so again, individual donors look for more than a story. And like an example, how do we convert a one-time donor into a monthly donor? So I think there's a lot of stories that I can share with you. I remember starting lending in a place called Georgia. Used to be part of the former Soviet Union. It used to be called Caucasus. And one of the things that we did was, after fall of Soviet Union, after the Cold War, I went in early 2000, and so all that people had in Georgia was chandelier. You have those fancy chandelier. They have a huge piano because they're all fond of music. The third one is they are gold, and they never trusted Soviet systems. So we packaged the product based on the goal that they had. People either have dollars, they trusted the banking system because twice the KGB announced that we are going to freeze your accounts, right? And you had money. Imagine, that we had demonetization, and we may not have this kind of situation in India, but imagine if it happens. So the point of reference for us was, okay, how do we take this goal, which is cash, and then and put a product around it, and talk to the women and say that, look, this is what you have. It's a liquid cash that you have, and it's an asset that you have. How to convert this asset into cash, into currency? Then you can have access to funding from the bank. We are trying to part of financial inclusion, try to move people from loanable to grantable to bankable. So what I'm saying is that you need to get those touch points, if you will, from the community, from the people, from your social workers, and then build a story around it. So very very interesting, touch points that you will come out with. So those are important things, I think, for any individual donors to that. Yeah. Any other questions? I know. Is there another question? I think I have to open the
Eh, I'll just check, sir.
other thing. Yeah. I understand you can also raise your hand if you have a question. You know, Let me ask you, how many of you are already raising money online?
So Mr. Das is thanking you for your wonderful answer. He's saying your answer is very well received, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay,
And he's wishing you
thanks.
best wishes. Thank you, Mr. Das.
Yes,
Anybody
thanks.
wants to ask the question, he can directly or she can directly raise the hands, and accordingly, Nazima will allow.
I just switched on my camera. Uh, with the
So I think again there is a bandwidth issue because we can't hear you. So I request you to switch off the camera.
Yes, sir.
I think off because I don't. Let's go to my last slide and probably to see my slide.
Yes, sir. Yes. Hello.
I know you're able to see my slide. Last slide. The
Last slide.
seven.
Yes, sir. I mean, I can see the 7 pillar slide, sir. I
Yeah,
don't
same.
think so.
Yeah. You're able to see? Oh,
No, sir. It's still the 7 pillar of online fundraising.
yeah, that's the one. But that's the last that I.
Okay. So it's the slide number 6 is the last one, sir.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah. So we can see that slide, sir.
Okay. Okay. Let me run through this. So let me do another quick recap. So object of the workshop was basically to provide a framework for fundraising. So some of you are already digital, and I assume that some of you want to get into online fundraising. So what is the framework and what are the critical drivers or components? Number one is to have a clear objective, number one, a clear goal, and then strategy. Critical, whether it is campaign management, communication, marketing, impact. I think you need to have clear strategy and you need to plan for it, so that you're able to navigate it. It's to know the next move that you have to make. It's that in many cases that I see, people get excited, they launch the campaign, and then they are doing the firefighting. So it's important for you to have this, framework, a kind of a roadmap. The next thing I spoke about was about institutional assessment. It's a simple tool, which is it's like a mirror. It kind of helps you to understand who you are as an organization. What are your strengths? What are your areas for improvement? And we come out with a capacity index on a scale of 1 to 5. So you know that your organization's capacity index is 3. And once you know it's 3, then you need to know I moved 4 or 3, 3 to 4, and then eventually to 5. So what will it take you to move from to 4 and 4 to 5 eventually? So this is called an institutional assessment exercise. There are 7 areas from governance to compliance. And the next thing that shared with you is a MEAL framework. MEAL stands for monitoring, evaluation, accountability, and learning. These are check balances, and these have clear indicators. So anything that you do through the campaign or through any other activity in your organization, you need to have a meal framework, because meal framework gives you what are the qualitative indicators, what are the quantitative indicators, what are your outputs, what are your outcomes, what is your objective, what are the activities that you have to undertake in order to achieve that kind of an outcome, what are your results that you anticipate. For example, like I said, 21% is a conversion that you have to look for. This is an industry standard, and we are not there yet, right? So that means your footfall, let's say 100 people visit your website, you have a donation page, you have an appeal, and you have all the stories in the website. And I go there as a potential donor, and I'm very happy with the work you're doing, and I'm very happy with the appeal, with the messaging, the narrative, what I read on the website. Because, like I said earlier, offline is there is a physical interaction. Yeah, if you're organizing a golf event, you're talking to the golfers, you're saying I'm pitching this money because we want to help the farmer widows who have committed suicide in Maharashtra, and we want to help their children's and their education, and we want to help these women through their livelihoods, through income generating activities, because they are lost their husbands, mean they lost everything. And once one commits suicide, and what happens is that you are thrown out of the society. Nobody wants to come near you. They're out of the complete system. They're so you want to help them, right? So if you're putting a proposal, to an organization, you have a call, you have a cold call, you have a CSR committee, you go and make a pitch. You're able to understand their body language, you're able to understand their criteria, because CSR, most of the CSR companies, CSR man have policies, right? And they have criteria. example, Aisha Motors. I worked with them. Their focus is education. Their focus is skill. Focus is a wash, sanitation, in health and hygiene. Anything that you can do through schools and to institutions, they'll fund you. So you can do a kind of desk review. You can do some research. But whereas in online fundraising, we assume a lot of things and then we make sure that we put the right things on the platform. So that is a good indicator. 21% conversion, online fundraising conversion. Foot is 100. So 21 people should become your owners, right? And they don't. Yeah, and maybe you are starting with 5%. It's okay that you at least you're starting with 5. So as part of your meal framework, you know that your conversion today after launch a very compelling campaign, your conversion is only 5%. 100 people visit your website, your traffic is good, you're trying to get a Nana Patekar as your ambassador, who's also sold out for this cause, and then he gives you a 1 minute 50 seconds video bite, support the organization. The footfall increases. Footfall is increasing, whereas the conversion is not getting increased. So that you need to have a framework, you need to have those indicators. Then you look at the dashboard and say, look, oh, there's something wrong. Anna Patel, as a Maharashtrian who's actually sold out for this cause, helping the farmer widows, he has given you a video. The footfall is increasing. A lot of people are visiting my website, but there's no conversion. Conversion has not gone up beyond 5%. So what do I need to do in order to increase the conversion from 5 to 10%, 20 and beyond? So it gives you the red flag, right? The red signal. So you have a red flag there, and you're trying to see, okay, probably the way I've structured the impact numbers are not right. The way I've kind of structured, the study is not appealing. Then you do a deep dive. 100 people. How many are corporate employees? How many are adults? How many are millennials? How many are teenagers? So then you're trying to break it down. Say, okay, probably my social media marketing has not reached out to those people, right? And there are a lot of examples. I mean, people, the U.S. elections. I mean, podcast. A lot of young people listen to podcasts, right? They don't, look at their, social media, postings, and I think that shared during the inauguration, right? So picture podcast is such a powerful media in the U.S., which kind of influence young voters, right? So I think that's mismatch in terms of expectation. I'm not saying that podcast is a effective media. I'm just giving an example. So when you have a meal framework, it helps you to understand understand who are these people who are visiting, but they don't want to donate to this particular cause. Yeah, that's important. So if you look at the 7 pillars, success matrix is very important. Let me, I intentionally it's not ranked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because what happens invariably, when you're talking about off fundraising, you go to number one. How do I make my organization? So you have a proposal, you have a fundraising expert, someone who has experience, who can go to the CSR committee and nicely tell a story within 60 seconds and then appeal to them to invest in organization. So deliberately I didn't put one as one, 3 as number one. These are concepts and success factors. Again, I want to relate this to your meal man, right? Meal, wanting evaluation, accountability, and learning that we looked at here. So, what are the concepts? Like I said, the concept would be social media marketing is not reaching out to this young voter or the young donors, potential donors. So, should we look at podcasts? Should we look at Instagram, for example? Maybe Instagram would be a better media, better platform for us to reach out to these young, potential donors. So, concepts and success factors you're looking at before even you could launch your campaign, right? And that's where it comes one. Number three, number it's point number three, and box number one. Look at box number two, point number four. All pillars are important. There's no pillar which is short, which is tall. Not that pillar number 5 is taller than pillar number 1. And these are important pillars. These are basic foundations for online fundraising. And I've already said, for example, I think you'll be able to relate to that. Success metrics. You know, success metrics, when you talk about, a faith-based organization that we work with, they're talking about success not in terms of in terms of the value of donation rate, the platform. Success metrics is not what we're looking at donation per, donor or donation per fundraiser, average raise fundraiser. They're looking at number of devotees who are willing to empanel with these organizations, because Swamiji is the face of the organization for this, faith-based organization, and a lot of devotees, followers of Swamiji, are signing up as ambassadors or fundraisers. So they want to quantify the number of devotees who are willing to join the campaign, because if make he's got followers around the world, but none of them are willing to join the campaign. And once they join the campaign, are they joining the campaign as fundraisers or as ambassadors, or as promoters, or as initiators? Right. So I'm just giving an example of metrics. So you can find for organization, what is the success metrics that is you're looking for. Some would say that number of first-time donors is very important. We need to track, have an interaction with them, and then what I did in my previous organization as part of success matrix is that how do number of donors were retained, not only for online, offline as well. So a percentage of donors of retained, that is repeat donors. They gave you money. So I'm talking about offline fundraising. They give money for education, for educating, kids of this farmer widows in Maharashtra. And they're concentrated in Wasmat, Beed, and other areas. And so you go story, and they say, okay, we could see tangible, impact in the lives of those people that have impacted. So we want to go for phase 2. Right. So should that be your success metrics? So I want you to look at your organization, look at what you want to do, the campaign, and then decide what should be the success metric. Donor management and conversion, very important. End of the day, donors are important. Right? How you manage the donors, even our team members are on the call. We when we do the how our platform is so seamless, right? Where sometimes you want it and you get stuck, like today. When I started, my video was not working, and once my video started working, my audio had problems, and you could give me the feedback. Otherwise, so that's important, right? And technology is not always user friendly. And I remember attending a launch of a very large multinational. I wouldn't name the organization, and they were launching their new logo. It's a very large organization, got 100,000 employees over in India, a $2 billion market cap globally. Someone will be able to, I think who I talk about. And they invited communication director, and they said, no, we want to launch a new logo, and we're happy that all of you are there. They've done the drive and everything. They switched on the video. Lo and behold, nothing happened for 12 minutes. The chairman sitting on the dais, the communication director on the dais, and they apologized, right? It's a tech company trying to unveil their new logo in New Delhi, and I was part of this, process, and nothing is, guaranteed in this digital world. And I'm not saying that even you can have all the risk mitigants in strategy, but still, what I'm saying is that when donor gets online, are they able to navigate it well? They're able, they're able to use a QR code and donate, right? I mean, we know that 600 years use the code and donate and make payment, but how do you connect them? The important questions, right? And so it's important, this line, so donor management conversion is important. Like I said, Anu has donated once to your education campaign. And Anu is very happy because she got to know about Pavitra's journey. A small town village, someone was trying to finish well standard. Someone supported her, and helped. I visited another partner right here in Bangalore. Also target low-income families, kids from low-income families, from the urban slums, and they have their own education program. The volunteers who teach. So 2.5 hours of their time, is given to these organizations as volunteers. Go and teach them English, and got 5 books, five curriculum, and then so they teach things which is not taught in the school, and so 4,000 volunteers who do that, and 93% of these volunteers, they actually become their fundraisers because they have done the teaching. They can share the stories. They can give you all the indicators and outputs and outcomes, etc., etc. So donors are important, and how do you convert them is very important. Retention technique. When I talk about retention technique, I'm not only talking about donors. It's all your stakeholders. Like this phase organization. The devotees. So the Swamiji gives kind of a spiritual talk. He gives them promises. So retention technique could be, financial and non-financial, monetary and non-monetary. Recognizing people, right? You recognize the top 5, fundraisers. Give them a certificate, give them a plaque, whatever. And say that these are the top 5 fundraisers who have done extremely well, and so all of us as human beings, we need to be recognized, and we want to be recognized, right? And in a forum like this, international forum, if you recognize people who have done well, people who have given back to communities, etc., etc. So retention technique depends on your organization. It depends on the strategies. One of the things that our platform, Crowdera platform, that is perks. For example, you can give a cap, you can give a T-shirt, you can give a water bottle to your fundraisers. It could be online, and then you can put a cap, but you can put a bracket. People raise from 1,000 to 1 lakh rupees. You could get a nice T-shirt. And I remember in my previous organization, I got a brick signed by Amitabh Bachchan, and Jacqueline Fernandez she was an ambassador for us then, and so she sent this brick. It was a wooden brick signed by Amitabh Bachchan, and we were able to auction it for a big money. And so retention technique could be anything. Recognition. It could be signing the bricks, and for the top 10 donors, and they feel very, very happy. When you recognize. And in online fundraising, people have to be recognized. Even for on offline. I'm not saying any fundraising activity has to be recognized. I'm not saying that it has to be only through monetary terms. It could be non-monetary terms. A letter from the CEO, which I've done in many with many fundraisers, both staff and others. And we have given certificates. We've given them something that they can relate to as an organization, etc., etc. And launching and sustaining a campaign. I think is very easy. Sustaining is very difficult. So it's important. If you plan, like I said, the framework is all about plan, plan, plan. Yeah, plan and execute, plan and execute, plan and monitor, plan and measure your meal framework. Yeah, so you need to launch, you need to sustain the campaign. Like I said, the best practice is that you can do a own campaign, 3 months, 2 months, 4 months, and you time it in a way, that people do it in October, so because people give, serve, for example, in India, November, Thanksgiving, the US, festivals, festivities, right? Dasara, you have Diwali, you have Christmas, you have New Year, and you have other activities, Chinese New Year. This weekend is Chinese New Year being celebrated, Singapore and beyond, and the country. So they talk about, giving, that red envelope, you give, you give to people, to your relatives, friends, neighbors, so again, you need to come up with different incentives, how you sustain your campaign, Organized preparedness is very, very, it's a culture, right? Offline is, it's writing, identify operates, thematic areas, you have story, you have narrative, you have clear message, you have all those ROI and different, indicators, and social performance indicators, etc. So you're able to, prepare the organization digital journey. And so we do a lot of training program, and so one of the things that I've realized is digital journey to be aligned in par with the institutional journey. I cannot say that this is different. You can outsource it. And a lot of people ask us, can we outsource this fundraising to another organization? You can outsource it. But you cannot sustain a campaign. It needs to be embedded within the culture of the organization. Because we live in a era where everything is outsourced. Even surgery gets outsourced with all with AI technology, and all the new thing that's happening in the US and India and other countries with all the AI related technologies that we've been doing in the past few weeks. Scary, but that's how it is, right? So I'm not against robots, but all I'm saying is that human touch is important in this business, right? Human connection important. Yeah, your emotional connection between two machines. It has to have a human. It needs to have that human face. It needs to be centric. It needs to be people centric, right? That's very important. So Operation Preparedness has got a lot of things. Right from your culture to the vision to the mission. To strategies to structure to systems and processes to people, everything, right? And the last one is, what are the don'ts of online fundraising? The first thing is the goal, and because everybody is excited when you're launching a campaign, and they say that, okay, let's set a huge goal, unrealistic goal, in crores, in millions, and then you're not able to achieve it. So I always say that a realistic goal, and you can always revisit and change it. And most our platform has that provision, and most platform does. And so it's important that you also choose the right platform for your online fundraising, which is flexible, which will help you to do a lot of things, right? Things that we always talk about when you're talking about, this is this P2P, person to person, right? That's very important. So you could be a fundraiser, you could be a fundraiser, like Anu's a fundraiser, like and she raises money for your education program, and and let's say Das knows Anu, and Das doesn't know Anu's work and the work that she is working with another NGO, which is actually doing a program. But because of the face of the campaign, because of the credibility, accountability, transparency of this organization, Das becomes a donor for Anu's campaign. And first time he donates for Anu's campaign, and Anu comes back with a nice story, and Das says that, I've got 5,000 people, in my social media network. You look at my phone book, my WhatsApp and Instagram, and it could be more than 3,000 for Das. But I'm just saying. So he says that, can I create a page within your NGO and with the thematic area of education, and so that I can tap into my 3,000 contacts. So Das becomes a fundraiser within a larger ecosystem, right? It's a network of networks. So you have a thematic area, let's say for you and I, which is involved in education, and Anu is a fundraiser, and Das donated to Anu's campaign. So Das is a donor for Anu's campaign, which is for you and I for education. And because of the feedback that Das got, and because the way that you and I is structured, they're very transparent. You can go to the website and look at all the expenses, etc., etc. Das says, can I create a campaign page where I tap into my 3,000 network that have contacts through my social media, contact list. So that's possible. I think so it won't be a don'ts, but it will be a do's. But what I'm saying is that that's the power of digital media in today's digital world. And like I said, India, sky is the limit. And what happens in the digital space is that Anu could be sitting in Delhi and and raising money for a project in the US, right? And with all the things that's going on in the US. I was just reading on a newsletter which I got from a network of coalition of homeless people. They're saying that is going to increase because they were earlier they had special allocation for different segments of population, and now there are only two, and I think a lot of people will be out. They'll be homeless very soon. And what is something that we can do there, right? So is that in the digital space, sky is the limit. So that is, you could be sitting in Bangalore, money for a cause in Kenya, in Nairobi, for a skilling project or for a housing project. So I think these are some of the things we've learned over the years, and so I think I'll stop here. So my last presentation one was on 7 pillars, and I know we still have time. If there are any questions, comments, or suggestions, I'm happy to get your feedback. Again, I want to thank Idobro and everybody there for this opportunity, for giving the Crowdera and me an opportunity, because this is very very important. Intervention. Because funding is a huge pain point. It's one of the important pain points for the education sector, and so is capacity. And so it's a chicken and egg story. You build your capacity to raise money, then you have the capacity. So it's important. Yes. Yeah, I know. That's a question. Good question. Foreign corporation in India. So we have, so I think online fundraising, what we see in India is mostly non-FCRA. It could be individuals who could give to you. And, FCRA kicks in only when you have to raise, if you raise money in the US, for example, Crowdera is registered in the US. And, let's say the same education camp, we are raising money for you. Anu, has a campaign page, and she has raised $10,000. She has to transfer the money from Crowdera US to your organization. You need to have FCRA, and if you don't have FCRA, then it becomes a joint project. So they won't be able to transfer the money. Uh, you know, and so because I think, like I said earlier, know, online fundraising invariably it asks individual donors. So therefore, your legal status as an organization is not very important. But if you have to receive money after you raise the money, then your legal status is very important. Whether you got a FCRA, ATG, 10B, all this registration kicks in only when at the time of receiving the money. But as far as the campaign is concerned, when you're going to raise money, people can donate to your, as a local money or in contribution campaign. And if foreigners have to, money to you, then they have to put their passport details, etc. Yeah. So and I'm just looking at Crowdera in the US. So as long as they can put their passport details, so and then we can provide that information to the regulatory authorities. Yeah. So yeah. So challenge is that when, as an organization, as an NGO, when you receive foreign money, I think that is where the problem kicks in. Because you need to have FCRA, registration, Foreign Contribution Regulation Act registration, which is appointed by Minister of Home Affairs. And of late, cancel license for a lot of NGOs, maybe 14,000 plus, and they've become very stringent in terms of giving license to new organizations. So that's a very important thing. And as far as giving is concerned, I don't think it should impact as long as you are targeting individuals, from